I am fantasy and paranormal romance author Leslye Penelope, and welcome to My Imaginary Friends, a look behind the scenes of an author mapping the worlds in my head and making them a reality. Hello friends, today is Saturday, November 11th, 2023, and this is episode 226 of My Imaginary Friends. I'm Leslye. This is just a quick NaNoWriMo update. So, I have been doing well, even though I haven't been writing every day. So at first, the first few days I was getting my everyday sprint happening, and then I hit a wall, and this week was just a tough week for me emotionally. And I came across an Instagram post that I reposted to my stories, and it said, it's okay to do less when you're dealing with more. And that was really permission I needed to be like, oh, I'm just having a hard time right now. I was doing really pretty good emotionally, and then I just hit a wall, and then I wasn't doing well. So I decided to give myself some grace. I was binge reading a series. I recommend it. It's by Kenley Davidson. It's the Legends of Ibrea series. The first book is The Faceless Mage, and I downloaded it like a year ago, and it's on KU. So it's one of those things that's been on my Kindle for a year, and I like this author. I like her previous work, everything from fantasy romance to science fiction romance, and this is back to fantasy. Anyway, I just hadn't gotten around to reading it. I wasn't in the mood. And then I just binged through. I stayed up really late reading these books as a way to self-soothe. Like, reading is soothing to me, especially when, I'm just sort of in some emotional turmoil. So as a result of staying up really late, I woke up late. I didn't write in the mornings. Also, my friend Inez Johnson, who I write with every morning, was out of town. And when she's not there, it is very easy for me to slip back into waking up later, not writing, not holding the appointment with myself. So having the accountability is extremely helpful in actually getting it done. But yeah, I was not getting it done. So then I think Tuesday I wrote, Wednesday I did something. The past 2 days, I did not do my nano. Friday, I didn't write at all. So I'm a little behind where I wanted to be, both with Brutal Fortress and with NaNoWriMo. At one point, I was just like, maybe I just write 3,200 words or 3,300 words every other day, as opposed to the 1,700 per day, which works because my dictation is really still going well. It's going fast. But yeah, I'm just not being as disciplined as I have been in the past and as I know I can be. And I am still trying to give myself grace for, discipline is important, but kind of knowing when to relax and just give yourself some space and just a mental break is also important. Story-wise, with my NaNoWriMo story, I realized this week that I think I need a subplot. I don't think that the plot that I have outlined, to the extent that I have outlined it, which is a loose outline, I don't think it's enough. It's not carrying the weight of the whole, of an entire novel. So it's either, okay, this is just a short novel, or beef it up and have something else happen. And that's sort of my inclination. There's nothing wrong with doing something short, but I think that I'm missing something. And that's another one of the problems of Nano. It's like, okay, we're doing this challenge, we're doing this exercise in writing a specific number of words in a specific period of time, which I think is valuable, but also don't let it get you off track in terms of what does your story need. In the past, when I've won, it's kind of just barreling straight through and just pushing, which seems to be the spirit of the challenge. Now, I'm doing this with a book that is, not something necessarily on my schedule. It's something that I'm interested in. I don't know how I'm going to publish it. I think I've mentioned that before, either here or on the live streams that I was doing. It's fantasy romance. It could go indie, but I think that this is a book that could be traditionally published. So that is also a thing in my mind in terms of, okay, not knowing exactly the length I'm shooting for. If it's definitely indie, whatever length is fine. But if I am shooting for traditional, then I have different kinds of goals for that. And I'm just not sure. So I had to, stop. Well, I didn't have to stop, but I did stop. And in my pause, I was thinking about potential subplots. I do not have an idea yet. So I'm still going to just write what I have outlined. And I think that's 50,000 words worth. But in terms of thinking about this as a holistic, complete novel, it will need something else. And there's still a lot that I don't know, but that's part of the first draft, right? I also had to go back and figure out the villain's motivations or the antagonist's motivations. I knew sort of what they were up to, but it did require me to go into my spreadsheet, my character motivation spreadsheet, and fill out, at least their external goal, motivation, conflict, those kinds of things. I don't really do internal for most antagonists unless that's really important. Like their internal journey is generally not on the page or relevant in any way. If they even have usually antagonists are flat characters. They could have negative change arcs. I mean, you could, if this was a story about, a villain rising, but that's not what the story is. Although that is an interesting story. So yeah, overall, I have to look at my word count again and see what I get done this weekend. I am feeling a little bit more energized today to get back into the writing. I do have to prioritize Brutal Fortress because I have harder deadlines, and if I don't win Nano, nobody cares but me. It's just sort of bragging rights. It's just a self-challenge that I would like to complete, and I think that I can in terms of the word count that I did very easily so far. If I'm behind, and I don't think I'm behind because I had a big padding, but if I am, catching up will not be difficult. It's just keeping the momentum up. And amidst all of this, I was thinking that I really need to work on Her Majesty's Wolf. So that was a short story that was in an anthology last year or earlier this year. When was that? I don't remember. But it was in the Fable of Fab anthology. And so that anthology ended. I have the story back. I have a cover made. I had a wonderful newsletter subscriber who is an illustrator, and I hired to do a cover. And before I release it again on my own, I want to add content. So I think the story was 6,000 words. I was in several anthologies, and one was 6 and one was 10, and I don't know which was which, but I think this was 6,000 words. So the idea was to expand it, release it again, still a short story, but it relates. It's in the same world as this NaNoWriMo story. And if you're on my newsletter, my author newsletter, which you can get to at lpenelope.com/newsletter, you get several short stories in the first few weeks that you are on the newsletter. The first one is Return from Elsewhere. And so I'm building this sort of fairy tale-esque, I don't want to call it a fairy tale world, but it's a world called Elsewhere where creatures of legend and fairy tales live. So in that first short story, you meet pixies and shifters, and that's actually when I started thinking about the idea of the enigmas that ended up in a different form in the Monsters We Defy. So I've been in that world there, in a short story called Loop that was an anthology, and then again in Her Majesty's Wolf, and in this Nano story. So I'm trying to create this sort of, for lack of a better term, fairy tale-esque world. And it manifests differently because I've done these short stories over years and exploring ideas and figuring out what it is. But it's a big enough world that I think it can encompass everything. So eventually, if I do a short story collection or if I write novels in this world, which I'm trying to do, this process of doing NaNoWriMo and planning for it has really got me excited about building out this world and making it big enough to tell lots of stories in. Back to Her Majesty's Wolf, I want to expand that, give it more of an ending. There's no sex scene in it. I don't know if the anthology was very all over the place, but I can't fit meeting, a meet cute, relationship development, and a sex scene in 6,000 words. That is not one of my skill sets. So if I do want to include a sex scene, I need to expand the story. And I was thinking, I should have done that for Nano, because I would like to get that out by the end of the year, which doesn't seem realistic given everything else that I'm doing. So it'll probably be early next year. But then I was like, should I stop the Nano story and just use the time and the words to expand Her Majesty's Wolf? Because that is something that I can, give to my audience. I know what I'm doing with it. So that came up too. And I was like, I don't want to quit midstream, but I've made no decisions yet. This is just a day of questions. It's just a day of ideas and questions and thoughts that I'm having and struggles. And yeah, so that is my NaNoWriMo update. I'm planning to write today. I'm going to do a sprint or two. and hopefully get a few thousand words. I need to work on Brutal Fortress today because since I did not write at all yesterday on that, I'm behind this week because I think there were 2 days I didn't write. Although I did cut a chapter, so maybe I am not quite as behind as I thought. But yeah, that's where I am. That is my update. This is my bonus nano update episode of the podcast. And so, goals for the week? Get a schedule together like I do every week, but maybe follow it more. I'm doing well with other aspects. I was going to skip my exercise class, but I went twice this week, and I did not take any walks. I have a goal to, on the days that I don't go to the gym, take a 20-minute walk outside. But it's turned cold. I mean, it's in the 40s and 50s now, and it's affecting my motivation to go outside. But I know that being out in nature, being out in the sun is helpful for mood and all kind of other benefits. So it's on my list, it's on my daily tracker, and it's just empty blocks instead of filled in blocks. So yeah, goal for this week is to try to fill in some more blocks on my tracker and get some more things done, in addition to trying to reevaluate my relationship with discipline, I guess. But also while still allowing space for me to not be disciplined and to find the balance of that. So I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next time.